Eric Dykes. Coming up later in the program, Alex did an exclusive interview with Austin Police Chief Art Acevedo. You probably saw him on the show today, but you didn't see this, so stay tuned. Of course, it is the 70th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack, the false flag that was ubiquitously known around the world before 9/11. That, of course, among other things, led to World War II, U.S. entry into anyway, as well as Japanese internment camps. Now in the modern day, in the age of 9/11, we have more detention camp news. Developments there from Paul Joseph Watson. Detention camp order follows preparations for civil unrest. Of course, we reported last night that KBR is subcontracting to outfit its emergency environment centers, and we detailed that in Kurt Nemo's article. But Paul points out how they've been preparing for civil unrest since at least 2008 in the open. KBR, of course, had the contract in 2006 to build the camps. Now U.S. authorities are preparing for such eventualities on home soil, with major police departments like the NYPD staging mobilization exercises to train police to prepare for civil disorder in the United States. And there's been lots of other stuff as well. The Army Times reporting that there would be some 400,000 troops on homeland soil. Other plans announced in 2008 to station some 20,000 troops inside the U.S. for domestic security. U.S. Army War College orders preparing for civil unrest, and a whole lot more. Of course, there's bills like the National Emergency Centers Act, H.R. 645, that Alex has covered at length, establishing the chain of command for these detention centers, putting it all under the Homeland Security Department. And why not? Of course, things are only going to get worse economically, and that is the direction we're headed there. Among other things, Obama is reiterating his call for a national police force, which would be a civilian police to match the size and power of our armed forces, in the words of his 2009 statement, which would all be a, quote, stability police in the conditions of economic unrest. We have that clip now.
Next, Obama ordered the Defense Department to issue DoD Directive 1404.10, establishing a 1 million person civilian army under his control. Simultaneously, Obama launched USAService.org. The new website deceptively masquerades as a federal agency, but in reality is a recruiting tool building a separate, completely private army outside of government that takes orders directly from Obama's controllers. Barack Obama has refused to rescind Presidential Decision Directive 51, signed by George W. Bush. The directive plainly states the president is a dictator and that Congress is ceremonial.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Of course, this has nothing to do with Barack Obama, the president, love him or hate him or whatever. This has to do with continued executive overreach. It's been going on at least since the Civil War, but it's been especially troublesome with the last 4 or 5 presidents. And you see what happens under Rex 84 and other continuity of government plans, all these secret detention plans, contingencies for emergencies of whatever kind, all under the executive branch and all these agencies, including FEMA and Homeland Security, all very dangerous. Now, if you weren't paying attention last night, Kurt Nemo and Alex Jones broke an exclusive. We got documents from inside Kellogg Brown Root, the Halliburton subsidiary, and they are now contracting services for the FEMA camps they've been building openly since at least 2006. Now they're activating them by staffing them with everything from temporary fencing and barricades to laundry and medical services, power generation, refuse collection, catering, and a whole lot more. And they've broken it into 5 regions, as you see there on the map, which would mesh nicely with the 10 governor regions and the Homeland Security 10 regions, 2 regions per group, I would imagine. Now, meanwhile, Gingrich, if you're wondering what kind of candidate he will be, Kurt Nemo's drug out a speech he gave for C-SPAN's book review in 2008. where he, among other things, advocated splitting the FBI into two factions and allowing at least one of those factions to openly violate the Fourth Amendment. It's not enough that they set people up as patsies and call it terrorism, but even more troubling, Gingrich said at least twice in this clip, I don't know if we have it here, maybe they could tell me, that the government should occasionally allow a terror attack in order to remind the people there's still a war on terror. Just disgusting, and the tragedy is they continue to milk more government power out of unfortunate events, which, well, you know who's behind them. Just disgusting. Of course, he also says torture's good, waterboarding's acceptable, and not torture. We have that article here. In addition to advocating constitutional relativism, Gingrich recently stated he doesn't consider the practice of waterboarding to be torture. And that was during the Fox News debate. Of course, you saw where he almost wasn't able to file in Ohio, but then he was able to. They always bend the rules for their insider candidates. Imagine if Ron Paul was in that position. Gingrich doesn't even have an electoral facility. He doesn't have the structure behind him, yet somehow he's at the top of the polls and everything. Smells real funny. Gingrich struggles with state deadlines for filing. That's been superseded. Romney, it's been revealed, spent nearly $100,000 to hide his records when he was governor of Massachusetts. Money he spent to replace computers, and also it's previously reported to replace hard drives so he could keep all the data and internal emails and so forth and so on. However, Teresa Dolan, former director of administration for the governor's office, told Reuters that Romney's efforts to control or wipe out records from his governorship were unprecedented, and that in her 23 years as aide to successive governors, no one had ever inquired about or expressed the desire to purchase their computer hard drives before Romney's tenure. They're saying it's not illegal, but it is strange. Of course, it wasn't as much of a computer age prior to Romney, but still, what is he hiding? I guess potentially a ClimateGate type scandal. Look what happened when those emails came out. In lighter news, Herman Cain, we didn't cover this before, so we're covering it now. In his speech where he quit the race for the presidency, maybe still a vice presidential candidate, we don't know, quoted Pokemon. Why does he do something like that? To try to be cool with the people. All these candidates want to relate to ordinary people, while ordinary people have no clue what's going on behind these puppet figures inside the real government. Well, Herman Cain, federal head of the Kansas City branch of the Federal Reserve, a very powerful branch in his district there. He can't have all the fun Alex, too, has drawn from Japanimation in the past. Let's check that out.
I refuse to go along with this, and I'm seeing through all of your lies, Barack Obama, you wicked, wicked devil!
Yeah. So it's funny to pay attention to the occasional gaffes that some of these candidates and other public figures make. What worries me more, though, is the things that aren't a gaffe, like Al Gore's statement to Bob Woodward. It was in The Hill today that the public knows less than 1% of what happened during the Clinton administration, less than 1% of what went on behind closed doors, all the secret, corrupt inside deals and all the rest of it, trading secrets to China, everything. It's just disgusting what really happens in this government, and yet the public is focused on pop culture issues and pop culture candidates. Just makes me sick. In other news, a mystery company is buying up U.S. gun manufacturers. In recent years, many top-selling brands, including the 195-year-old Remington Arms, as well as Bushmaster Firearms and DPMS, leading makers of military-style semi-autos, have quietly passed into the hands of a single private company. It's called the Freedom Group, and it is the most powerful and mysterious force of the U.S. commercial gun industry today. Is it freedom for one company to own it all? I don't know. People have speculated in the past that Soros, among others, may have been behind this group in an attempt to buy out U.S. gun companies and ultimately dismantle the industry. He's apparently not behind it, but a hedge fund, Wall Street type named Feinberg is. He's part of the Cerberus Capital Group, a big hedge fund that has more than $20 billion in assets and also runs this company. Apparently, Dan Quayle also tied to it. Something to watch as Obama continues to be the best gun salesman in history, and Americans everywhere will have to fight for their Second Amendment. In TSA news, This business about the old ladies getting strip search is only expanding into a bigger story. We must keep an eye on this outrageous agency who's put so-called security. Benjamin Franklin warned that you can't have security when you give up liberty. This agency who's put security ahead of even dignity, again subjecting people we should be protecting the most, vulnerable old people, to the worst abuses of these searches. TSA's never stopped one terrorist. They haven't done anything for us. 3 elderly women say TSA agents made them pull down their pants in underwear. That's in local10.com. It's degrading. It's like someone raped you, Sherman said. That's one of the victims. They didn't know how to handle a human being. That's right. I've seen this at airports many times. For instance, old woman in a wheelchair, they'll prop her up against a post, make her stand when who knows if she even can stand. I don't know all the cases, but I've seen a lot of targeting of the very elderly. Goes on to describe people with colostomy bags and everything. And among other issues, the TSA people are not even aware of some of these medical conditions that older people have to deal with, and it is degrading. Of course, they say, however, proper procedures were followed in the cases of the elderly strip search, and they say that's not strip searching anyway. We just call it a, such and such procedure. The American Dream has 9 examples of elderly Americans being strip searched or sexually molested by TSA agents at airports. These are, for the most part, all recent cases. Lenore Zimmerman, that's the old lady, 110 pounds, you've heard about in the news. Also, Ruth Sherman, who's got herself in the news, saying, "This is private for me. It's bad enough that I have it. I had to pull down my sweatpants and my underwear down so they could see, this bag that she had in her pants, this medical bag." Another grandmother with a metal knee implant says she was touched all over, felt molested, wanted to take a shower afterwards. A 61-year-old retired special education teacher had an issue with his urostomy bag when he was patted down, which ended in him having urine all over his legs and pants. The TSA agent didn't even acknowledge that he had caused the urine to be spilled all over his body, sending him on his way to the flight. Of course, none of these people are terrorists, not even close. Back in June, a 95-year-old woman with cancer forced to remove her adult diaper. I think that was the case where it was leaking. A female cancer survivor was required to show her prosthetic breast. A 71-year-old man with knee replacement surgery had his pants forcibly ripped off. A 94-year-old woman pulled out of line, publicly molested by TSA agents at Raleigh Durham International. They groped her all over her body. Another cancer survivor treated at JFK Airport in New York was asked to step aside and have her breast area examined. She was a breast cancer patient and had bilateral mastectomy in April, and tissue expanders put it in the way to make reconstruction at a later date. Just no recognition at all of the very essence of the country we're supposed to protect, to preserve the way of life, give everyone the best opportunity under our Constitution and freedom of rights. Instead, everyone's subjected to it. Why do they do these things? It all has to do with that indefinite detention stuff. They're getting us ready to all be treated like slaves no matter what. Now, if the economy breaks down and there's civil unrest anywhere, I would imagine we're going to be treated this way just absolutely anywhere in public. Streets, malls, you name it. They've all talked about it. Now, in other news, a school in the UK has turned off the heat to, quote, save the planet. Head Rob Benzie switched off the radiators to show how the secondary school could cut down on its carbon footprint. He said it was an experiment and that it was successful. A lot of the parents and teachers were outraged, but I guess we can expect to see more of that. Now, meanwhile, in Spain, toilet paper restrictions are imposed on school children under the latest austerity cuts. You notice how the stuff to save the environment is the same kind of things they do under austerity, just always giving you less, keeping you from being able to consume or do basic stuff like use toilet paper, the stuff that happens in communist countries. I've heard firsthand accounts in places like Cuba where you can't even buy toilet paper because of the way the country is controlled and the other issues there. Just disgusting.